Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today, we are joined by David Klein, the Director of Business Development at ConsulTV. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about ConsulTV?
Sure. So my name is David Klein, live in Portland, Oregon, and I've been in the advertising world for about 20 years. Started working with law firms in the PPC, SEO, website space and loved it and moved around the country, managed large teams, worked for some national media companies. And about 4 years ago, I saw a huge opportunity in the streaming TV world, just similar to the evolution I went through 15, 20 years ago when businesses were leaving the yellow pages and moving into PPC. A shift was starting about 4 or 5 years ago. It's still continuing today. And so currently I'm with ConsulTV. We're a demand side platform. We specialize in working with particularly TV advertisers and taking those 30-second spots and putting in front of the right viewers as they're consuming content on Hulu and Netflix and Sling and all the streaming platforms that people are watching these days.
So can you tell me a little bit about when clients come to ConsulTV, what are some of the pain points and problems that they're experiencing that you're helping them solve?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll start by saying a lot of times they don't know they have problems because what's happening is that when you look at the advertising spend, again, and I'm just going to keep it in the TV space, there's still a large, I don't know, 70, 80% of the TV spend is still on linear TV, but the viewership indicates it's 50% or more are watching streaming. So there's still more dollars being spent on linear than where the eyeballs are. So right now, a lot of the folks that we work with are agencies, traditional TV agencies that have done the creative, that have placed TV advertising for 20, 30 years and have been very successful with it and seen businesses really grow. And there's a change, and it is hard to measure because we know that there's a lot of overlap. So the short answer is that identifying what the problem is, and that is that the viewers are leaving linear and they're going to streaming. And the solution is we can help take those same messages, the same branding that businesses have been doing the last 50 years, and now putting in front of not an audience that's based on, well, we think these viewers are watching Judge Judy and we think these viewers watch the news. We can actually use data bits to say, this is a home that has a motorcycle. This is a Spanish-speaking household. This is a house that lives in this specific zip code. So we can be very targeted with taking that same message, but put it in front of a more targeted audience.
And your background is in SEO and PPC. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And can you tell me how that background has sort of given you a unique approach to what is known as OTT marketing?
Right. It's a great question because it's, I get asked all the time, are you a digital product or are you a TV product? And just to answer your question, because I grew up in the digital world, I understand very well how platforms work and the infinite number of decisions that you can make if you're doing a Facebook campaign or a Google PPC campaign. Anybody that's actually worked in that and been in those platforms, literally an infinite number of ways you can set up a campaign. Just like there's good plumbers, there's bad plumbers, there's good PPC people, there's bad PPC people. So that experience, now I'm in a platform that's similar. There's a myriad of ways. We don't have any standard packages. We work with our clients individually to reach the audience that they want to reach. But the long answer to that question is that we're both. So we are a digital product because we're serving it through the internet. And all of the ads that we serve comes through the household's IP address. And so that allows the targeting and the tracking. But at the same time, it's still a message. It's still a 30-second spot that people have been watching on their TVs for 75 years. So
Right.
It's given me some great experience in understanding how platforms work and how they interact with one another. But at the same time, we're still in a space where we're reaching people instead of the very top of the funnel, more mid funnel because of the targeting capabilities. But it's still a 30-second spot people are watching in between watching a ball game or their favorite shows.
Now, you mentioned 20 years in this space. What changes in the advertising and marketing field and industry have you seen over the course of those 20 years in the space?
Well, the big one, of course, is Google. Like, just understand the impact that Google had 20 years ago. It still is the market leader. It's still the amount of search volume that they get, and of course, they've expanded now into YouTube, and they just have a myriad of services. But they're still at their core, they're a search company, and pay-per-click advertising and related products are still the core of their revenue. So, but Google still 20 years ago had enormous impact on the industry and still does today. The next one, though, is going to be social media, and just the way that people spend their time, and of course, Facebook is, even though Facebook is been in the news a lot for good things and bad things. But between Instagram and Facebook, there's still, the amount of eyeballs, the amount of time, the data that those companies have on all of us is just enormous. So that's a major impact. But at the end of the day, what's crazy is we have all of these choices for entertainment, whether it's social media, live, we see so many live sporting events. TV is still king. It's still the easiest. Just people still like to turn the TV on, not think, not have to scroll, not have to interact. And I almost think, because again, just looking at Nielsen and iSpot and some other data sources, there's a little bit of backlash on, if you're on social media, you get into the comment section and it's like, do I really want to argue with this person or read all this negativity, or I can just watch White Lotus and have fun for 60 minutes and watch an entertaining show and just call it a day.
Sure. Well, and we've talked about now, discussed, my last question was a little bit about, the past and what changes you saw in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But now the new emerging technology that everybody's talking about is AI. Do you think AI is going to impact the advertising and marketing space? And if so, what do you think that impact is going to be?
Well, it's absolutely impacting it. And really, shame on me. I should have brought that up, because I go to a lot of legal conferences, and AI is the topic of conversation across the board, both in the creative and the marketing space, but also in document collection and analysis and process serving and sending out settlement letters. So I would say that the thing that I've taken from being on the conference circuit is that AI, because it's a large language model, like that, there's the difference. So you have structured data that's in, say, and again, I am not an AI expert, but in my little brain, I look at how people collect data across the internet, say search data. So Google has an infinite amount of data. All the searches we've ever done, Google's kept those. So keep that in mind. Yeah. But now what AI has done is it's taken reams and reams and reams of verbal communication, and then it's looked at that verbal communication and said, how can we create a chart, create a picture, create a video, write a resume, write a TV commercial, that kind of thing. So, and the other thing that it's really interesting is that AI allows systems to talk to each other. So in our case, we have multiple systems. We have a system that inputs the data so that when we're serving ads, it's based on, again, I'm just going to use motorcycle owners because it's pretty concrete. We get DMV data. We can append the people that own motorcycles to their individual address. So now we're taking that data bit, we're serving ads to them, and then we have multiple publishers to choose from. So then the supply side has all these publishers that you could potentially show your ad on. You want to show it only to people that have motorcycles that are in certain zip codes. So all of these systems have to talk to each other, and AI is really good when it's set up correctly at talking to each other. So it's if you're a knowledge worker and you're certainly in the marketing space, it's part of our life, just the same way that Google is, I guess.
Is there anything that is unique about marketing and advertising for law firms that would be a little bit different, say, than marketing and advertising a restaurant or something like that?
Well, the thing that really jumps off the page is that law firms, the vast majority of their audience doesn't need them right now. Particularly if you're in the motor vehicle accident space, you're marketing to an audience. In the auto space, we call it in market. So I've done a lot of work with auto dealers as well. I think the conventional wisdom is 10 to 20% of people are in market for a car. So, 1 out of 10 people seeing this ad, they're thinking about buying a car right now. So that's a good place to be. But again, when would we need a personal injury lawyer? Well, after we've been in an accident, and if there's injuries, and if we're fighting with our insurance company. So the point of all that is it's really a balance of, we know that people are going to Google when they need a lawyer. They're going to say, hopefully they Google the name of the firm that's advertising. That's the goal, but that often doesn't happen. What do people do? Well, they Google it, an infinite number of possibilities: lawyer near me, car accident lawyer in San Antonio, whatever the case is. And then they have a myriad of choices, and we want them to choose you as a result of the advertising that you've done. So I think it's a little bit unique to the personal injury space. That applies, I think, to all TV advertising. But in the personal injury space, there's that, and then there's the legal implications that you can't solicit. So you have to have people that reach out to you, and that's the other reason that legal advertising is so common, just because of the rules that are in place.
Right. What are some of the common misconceptions that law firm owners have about OTT advertising, and how do you address those misconceptions?
Yeah. Well, the biggest one is that well, do people really watch OTT? Because law firm owners, the owners now are in a demographic that watches more cable TV and satellite than the rest of the country. So there's that piece of it. And when they do watch streaming, they elect to have the streaming services that are not ad supported. So they're watching Apple TV, they're watching Netflix with no ads, they're watching HBO with no ads. So I did a talk at a conference with a group of attorneys, many of whom were TV advertisers. And we talked about Pluto and Philo and Crackle. They have tens and tens of millions of monthly users. And at the end of the talk, a couple of the firms came up to me and they said, I've never even heard of these platforms. And they have infinitely more viewers than, say, YouTube TV. Now, not youtube.com. That's a separate entity. But just look. So the misconception is that they look at their own, and it's just natural bias that they're using their own viewing habits and then applying it to the rest of the world. And the viewing habits of the rest of the world are watch it all. And their viewing habits are probably YouTube TV and watching the local news. And I'm generalizing. So that probably would be the biggest misconception, is that that the streaming thing it's real. We know that people are out there watching it, but really, how much is there? And it's, especially if you're talking about an audience under the age of 40, it's almost entirely on streaming.
Right. And I'm curious, when clients come to ConsulTV, is your strategy for their marketing and advertising, is your strategy the same across the board? Is it sort of a one size fits all approach, or do you take a more custom tailored approach to that?
No, it's everything is custom. So we work primarily with agencies is our standard operating procedure, though we do have clients that we work with directly. And so again, it's looking at what the overall budget, how much linear advertiser they're doing, how long have they been in the market, what is their service, and also look just starting with creative, because creative is incredibly important. We are not a creative agency, by the way. We're a distribution channel. Right. So we want to say, if you have really good creative around truck accidents, then let's look at the ways that we can help promote that particular service. If we have motorcycles or bicycles. So again, it's looking at an approach of where's the creative, what are the data bits that we have to match that, and then also working with their budget, because we're a spoke in the wheel. Like, you have a wheel with one spoke, it's not going to be a very good wheel. but you want to have a lot of really strong spokes to make that wheel strong. And so we want to be a strong spoke in that wheel.
We've spoke a little bit about where things are heading with AI, but do you think that there are going to be any other sort of new, just like Google was a new platform, just like social media was a new platform, do you think that there's going to be any other new platforms to emerge in which, a new space to advertise? Do you see that on the horizon?
It's crazy that outdoor advertising now is now starting to get more and more programmatic. So when we talk about the term programmatic, that means you come to a demand side platform like us, and you're putting your ad next to a wide range of publishers. In our case, in streaming TV, those publishers would be Netflix, Hulu, Philo, Crackle, Samsung, LG, et cetera, et cetera. There's 200 of them. But in the outdoor space, because now so many of the signs are digitized and they're connected to the internet,
right?
You could literally have a still or a video ad show up on the side of on a bus stop or a billboard or something along those lines, and have that media distributed programmatically. So I think that's something that's being developed in more and more outdoor companies. And again, we have the ability to tap into that as well. Our focus is in the streaming TV, but we're aware of that outdoor, what that category is called, outdoor advertising. Right. The other thing I would say that's coming, and again, this is a little bit wonky and in the weeds, but it'll definitely affect for those that are in the TV placement space, is that right now, if you're on a platform like Hulu or Sling or Fubo or YouTube TV, those are all platforms that distribute content from local TV stations, and we've all seen that. So right. if you're on YouTube TV in Portland, Oregon, like I am, and you are watching KGW's newscast, then those ads that you're seeing on YouTube were placed really through the broadcast channel, and they're not being dynamically inserted. Well, all the major media companies are changing that as well. So now, because if you want to be a little bit on YouTube, just a little tiny exposure. If you're on the news, well, that's going to go away as well, because now all ads will be dynamically inserted based on the audience that's watching the ad, not just a block of content that's being distributed to the provider.
Right. And can you speak about some of the benefits of OTT advertising versus, say, more traditional advertising?
Yeah, we just conducted a really big focus group, or not a focus group. Scratch that. Actually, don't scratch that. This is not a focus group. We use pixels, we use data to really measure a linear campaign running next to a streaming TV campaign. And we wanted to measure how much overlap there was. What was the frequency like? Because frequency is a really important number in the TV world. You don't want to have too many ads. That's waste. You don't want to have too few, because then people don't remember you. So you want to be in the sweet spot, which we've determined is in the 5 to 10 range, 5 to 10 impressions per month. So that is what we've seen over the 100 or so law firms that we work with has been really successful. So what we saw in this case study is that the linear impressions was 33, the frequency was 33, the OTT was 3, so it was 10x the frequency. So you have reach, but it's wasteful because you have so many impressions hitting that household. They've heard your name 33 times. It's enough. And so the reason for that is because that linear audience is shrinking. So that was one learning. The other really big learning was the lack of overlap. So there was only about 20% of the impressions of the ads were seen by both linear viewers and streaming viewers. 79% of the ads seen on streaming were strictly cord cutters, which we've seen just all the reporting, all the news that you read about people cutting the cord. I think it's been in the news a lot, but now we had really, really hard data in a specific market running linear and streaming at the same time. And there's less overlap. So there are many, many, many people that just consume streaming TV. So those are two things that are between the over frequency and the lack of overlap just makes streaming that much more appealing, because ultimately you want to get that messaging out to the right audience and do it at a frequency that will have the biggest impact, which we think is in that 5 to 10 range.
Are there any trends in advertising that you've seen come and go over the years?
Trends. In advertising in general or legal advertising?
I was gonna, yeah, I was gonna say, well, we can open it up. I just was meaning in advertising in general, but yeah, we can focus that in on legal advertising. I suppose that would make more sense.
Yeah. So there is one thing that keeps cropping up, and it's I've been in it for 20 years, but in the cycle 3 or 4 years ago, I would go to conferences, and particularly digital agencies would speak at conferences, and they would say, you need to attribute every single call to a source and optimize around that source. And that would make my head explode because, of course, we all make decisions from multiple touch points, and that's just marketing 101. I think we all know that. But that advice was given early and often. Now that's completely done a 180 because now there's a lot of talk around personal branding and being authentic. And I'm going to use somebody who does, I think this is as good as anyone. They are not a client, but I know the firm. It's the Morse law firm out of Detroit. And they have really done a fantastic job of creating a personal brand. It's Mike Wins is their tagline. And the ads are funny. They're not serious. And it's just that personal brand says, we're here for you, but we're not taking ourselves too seriously. And I've met Mike many times, and that's who he is. Like, he's not just creating that for TV and then he's somebody different. So the answer to your question is thinking about using a personal brand, being consistent with it across multiple platforms. And again, that's something that will show benefits because you're being authentic. And again, it's all about that subject or that subconscious decision making that people make when they're choosing a lawyer to represent them if they have a car accident.
Right. We've spoken a little bit about your practice. I'd like to, and ConsulTV. I'd like to speak a little bit about you.
Okay.
And I'm wondering what inspired you to get into this space.
Well, to get into the advertising space, I do have a specific story. So when I graduated from college, I was in the insurance business for a while, and it paid the bills, but I never liked it. And so I just nothing, no shade on the insurance industry, just wasn't a good fit for me. And a buddy of mine, I like to kid, I started at the top because I started a health and fitness magazine 20 years ago, or actually more than that. It's been a little, but we had a magazine, and it was advertising. And I just loved it. I loved the creative part of it. I loved helping businesses grow. I like just because you have to know all the aspects of their business. What's their intake like? What's their return? It's a multidisciplined activity. So that's where I started in the print world, selling print advertising for my own magazine. And then unfortunately there's a little housing crisis in 2008. Some folks out there might remember that kind of did the magazine in, but I started digital advertising. As much as I like print advertising, the digital world really spoke to me. And so the rest is history. So this is what I've been doing since the early O's.
Now, you're in Portland.
Yes.
And you are passionate about biking and music. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And how do those personal hobbies, do you see any parallels between those personal hobbies and your approach to, strategy and innovation at ConsulTV?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me that because I've been biking for years and years, and now it's really just an exercise. I used to be a little nutty about it and had a training log. I don't do that anymore. I just get on my bike and pedal around the neighborhood a little bit. But I started playing guitar about 3 years ago. I've always had a passion for music, and I just decided, I have some free time. My kids have their own families, and I'm not going to ball games and doing that kind of thing I did for years and years. So absolutely. And the biggest learning is that on the bright side is that I've become infinitely better than I ever thought that I would be. I figured if I could just learn to strum basic chord, learn 3 or 4 chords and strum, that'd be good enough. And it's not. So the point is you just never really know what you don't know until you get into an activity.
Right.
And having been a lifelong music lover and listener of music, I thought again, it's kind of laughable to think, well, if you learn how to strum and you learn 3 or 4 chords, and you will be okay. And you're not. Like, you're just you're not a guitar player. 3 chords like that. That's it. So I would apply that. And in marketing, though, it's a similar situation, because we're all inundated with marketing messages. We all watch TV. We all like podcasts. Everybody consumes media in the civilized, westernized, industrialized world. So
Right.
because you consume media, it doesn't necessarily mean you understand how the back end works. And the similar lesson has been for me is that while I'm still love it, I practice an hour or more every day, it still is a place of, I'm 1,000 times better than I thought I would be, but I still have 1,000% better to go to be a good guitarist. So I have applied that attitude towards learning and trying to continue to improve upon my consulting for the agencies I work with.
Now, this is a question for me, because this isn't really for our audience, so sorry everybody, but I'm a guitar guy myself.
Sweet.
What kind of guitar do you play?
I have a Martin SC13. Yeah, I picked up my game.
Dang, yeah, you did. You went right for the good stuff.
Well, I did a lesson with my teacher about 4 or 5 months ago, and I started with a Seagull, which was a fun little guitar I bought on Facebook Marketplace, I think for $180. And but he was saying, look, you're progressing, and I said, yeah, I think I want to up my game a little bit. He goes, yeah, I think you'll be able to play stuff that you can't play. And again, this is another learning. So I tried out a lot of guitars, and I just won't bore the audience with all that, but I played, and really I had a bigger budget. I was like, I'm going to buy something really nice that I'm going to just play for a long time. And yeah, it was just, it's unbelievable having the right equipment made a big difference. What about yourself? What do you play?
Oh, I've got a couple different ones floating around here.
Okay.
I've got all kinds of different ones going around. I got a Gretsch, I got an Epiphone, there's an Ibanez over there. So
I love it.
I'm all over the board.
What kind of music do you play?
I'm a blues guy.
Okay.
How about yourself?
Blues influenced, but I'm kind of a Paul Simon.
Oh, nice.
Jimmy Buffett, just acoustic guitar, a little Robert Earl Keen's a good one, a little bluesy there. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh,
with
yeah, definitely.
So
definitely.
Those are some songs I'm learning right now.
So can you tell me, when you think back on all your time, with ConsulTV, when you think back, can you tell me, is there a story that stands out in your mind of a client or a firm that you really saw a positive transformation in as a result of your help and guidance?
I do. So there's an attorney in North Carolina that had been on TV for a long time, was very reluctant to move budget to the streaming space. And he did, and this was through the agency that I work with. And we did a year-end review, and I knew things had been going well. I expected the review to go well. And I'll never forget, he said, making this change has really changed my life, because we have seen our case volume picked up. We have hired some additional both paralegals and attorneys, and we've reached an audience that didn't know we existed. And this was in a mid-sized market. And he just said, this is just been a great change, because we knew we had good creative, but we just weren't getting it in front of the right audience. And so the proof is in the pudding. I mean, their case volume, oh gosh, this was about a year or so ago, but their case volume went up 35-40%, and they had the same budget. Yeah. So that was a really, really heartfelt, and I've heard some really positive things, but that was the one that just said, you hear that kind of success story, and that's the best compensation there is.
Absolutely. Well, David, this has been an awesome conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of ConsulTV, where can the people find you?
Sure. Well, it's David Klein, ConsulTV. I'm on LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out to me and join me. It's our website is ConsulTV, the word consult.tv. And I'm David Klein, 704-564-8745. And if you're in the TV space, particularly if you're not really in the OTT space, but you'd like to learn more about it, I take a very educational approach to educate. And then if we can find common ground, then great.
David, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. David, thank you again.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.